Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed at Hitmix 88.9 WEIU.
You are listening to the Tales of Music and Film podcast. My name is DJ Apollo, and we are on episode number 46. Thank you for tuning in. And I got a very special one in store for today. I'm finally getting back on the topic of music, but not in the way that you think. I wanted to dedicate this recording to a man who is one of my favorite composers of all time, James Horner. He was born on August 14th, 1953 in Los Angeles, California, and he was sadly killed in a plane crash on June 22nd, 2015 in Los Padres National Forest, California. He was married to Sarah Horner from 1985 to 2015. James had Academy Award nomination for Best Music Original Score. And this guy has done some of the greatest soundtracks I've ever heard in my life. This man is my favorite composer, and some of my favorite movies of all time, he composed the music. And the first thing I want to just going to go into here for a minute, music plays such a very important theme with movies. Like, you take the background instrumental music that was created for a scene, you take it out, the scene just doesn't hit the same. Prime example, I was watching a guy called Chris Stuckman, and he was reviewing Jaws, and he brought up how, like, if you take the music done by John Williams out of the film, it's not the same movie. You need that music. It brings the whole story to life. And with James's music, he brought every single film that he was a part of to life. He shows and he just gives so much emotion with the soundtracks that he composes. I cannot get over just how beautiful his music is. You feel it, man. Whenever you see a scene with his music, you get emotional. He conveys so much in what he creates. And some of my favorite films of all time, like Apollo 13, Aliens, Titanic. He's done other films, like he's done Legends of the Fall, Willow, A Beautiful Mind, The Land Before Time, Casper, and here my favorite film, Aliens, Glory, Commando, Field of Dreams, The Perfect Storm, Enemy at the Gates, Jumanji. Like, he's been a part of so many films that were just legendary. And I'm going to spend this recording talking about my top 3 films that I love that has James Horner's music. I personally love his music so much just because of how it makes me feel. Like, there are so many tracks, like especially in the Apollo 13 film, that I can't imagine this film not having that music. It's amazing. And that brings us into the movies. So the first film that I want to talk about right now is Apollo 13. This is my favorite space movie of all time. Apollo 13 came out in 1995. And it was directed by Ron Howard, and it recounts the story of the Apollo 13 voyage that was supposed to be the third moon landing, but the crew had to abort halfway through the mission due to an oxygen tank explosion. And the whole film is just them fighting against every obstacle that comes their way so they can make it back home. The music that James made for this film is some of the greatest composed music I've ever heard in my life. The first track that I want to talk about from this film that really touched me is Lunar Dreams. It's a scene where Jim Lovell, played by Tom Hanks, is in his backyard just staring out at the moon not long after Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made their landing. And he's just standing out there staring up at that moon with that look of, I'm going to walk on the surface one day. And that music is playing in the background. Dude, that music, for me, that music is telling you to dream. Dream big. You listen to this, it's just like, what do you want to do when you get older? What is a dream of something you've always wanted to do? You can make it happen. That's what I feel when I hear this track. It's so beautiful. And I stare out at the moon myself some nights and I wonder, man, what would it be like to walk on the surface of the moon? What would that be like, you know? And that music just makes me want to start shedding tears and make that dream a reality, you know? It pumps you up. It makes you want to go out and do big things with your life. It makes you feel excited, hopeful, and most importantly, it makes me want to dream. It's a beautiful track, man. It's so beautiful. And then that brings us to track number 2 for Apollo 13 that I want to give a mention about, the launch sequence. Oh man, dude, if it were up to me, I would have this music played through like the giant loudspeakers at every SpaceX launch. This music brings the whole launch sequence to life. Like, you listen to this music, it just really shows you how massive the Saturn V rocket is. This music just makes you so, excited for the adventure that these 3 brave men are about to embark on. This music really makes you feel and grasp the situation. Like, my gosh, man, we're going to the moon. And just, you see just the scale of the Saturn V, just the music, it helps show just what a breathtaking moment this is. And the engines start up, the rocket detaches from the pad and it launches. The music just kicks into high gear with this hopeful, adventurous tone. It's so amazing. And then when they get into space and when the gravity starts going away, and the music just intensifies, and it makes you want to go on an adventure. When I hear the music from the launch sequence, it makes you just want to just go on a random adventure. I'm like the hobbits in Lord of the Rings. I'm going on an adventure, just the launch sequence music is so beautiful, and it can be used for any situation. You could use that music for when a giant ship gets launched into sea. It really makes you feel adventurous. It's so good. You have to listen to it for yourself. Now, here is another track that needs to be talked about. And the scene that this track is used in, it would not be the same without it. Master Alarm. This track is playing when the explosion happens. Jack Swagger's ordered to stir the oxygen tank fans, flip the switch. A few minutes later, one of the tanks explodes. All hell breaks loose. And the crew is, fighting against time, trying to figure out what the problem is. In the meanwhile, you have the Master Alarm music playing in the background that's just taking the scene from 1 to 1,000 instantly. You really feel like, these men are in a very deadly situation. And you're wondering, are they going to figure out what the problems are? Are they going to die? What's happening? The music gets you in like panic mode. You're like, what's happening? And just the music really makes you understand that this is a very horrible situation and our guys might die, And this track, if it wasn't featured in this scene, it would not convey the same emotion. Ever. And that music just enhances that whole scene so well. Now, here is, in my opinion, the most emotional track in the entire movie, The Dark Side of the Moon. This instrumental moment is played when Apollo 13, so the idea is, so the team back at NASA decides to take the long run. They have the moon's gravity slingshot them around the moon on a course back to Earth. And the crew go behind the far side of the moon, and then, they get to see their landing site, and then the music kicks in, and it's sad, man. Like, this movie is literally about a man who gets his dream stolen from him, and he has to come to terms that he's not going to get to live his dream, to walk on the moon. The moon is right in front of them. Jim is staring out the window, and then the music plays, and then Jim imagines himself climbing out of the limb and running across the surface. And every time I see the scene where he leans down and he drags his fingers through the lunar soil, I get chills every single time. And you just see the surface passing by the window, and Jim's looking, out at the horizon, knowing that he's never going to get to walk on the surface, Like, can you imagine? Your dream is literally right there. You're so close, but it just wasn't meant to be. And the Dark Side of the Moon track really conveys that. You feel sorry for this man, You just want to give him a hug. And this track really brought that whole sequence to life. It's one of my most favorite scenes in the entire film. And lastly, we got the re-entry sequence. Now, here is another one that really brings this scene to life. So the re-entry sequence music is played when Apollo 13's capsule is re-entering the atmosphere like an asteroid, like a meteor. It's entering the atmosphere at a very high speed. And Mission Control finds out not long before re-entry that their heat shield might be damaged due to the explosion. And the crew's re-entering the atmosphere not knowing if they're going to make it because they know the heat shield's damaged, and if it is, there's nothing they can do about it. So they're re-entering the atmosphere, with the idea in the back of their heads that they might die because that shield's broken, they're screwed. They'll be killed instantly. And the music of the re-entry is playing, we get close-ups of all the crew members as the capsule re-enters the atmosphere. And the music goes into like this softer tone, and we get back to everybody on the ground, everybody, all their families watching the TVs, waiting for it to be announced that they're back, landing in the ocean. And the music's playing up, you don't know what to think. You don't know whether to be hopeful or doubtful. Then the music goes into this soft tone because Mission Control starts calling them Apollo 13, do you read? And then 4 minutes go by of just dead silence. And the music gets into a really sad pitch, and you think that they're gone. And then out of nowhere, music kicks right back up into this breathtaking, monumental moment. And then that's when we hear Tom Hanks' voice, hello, Houston, this is Odyssey. It's good to see you again. And then the entire Mission Control team stand up and start cheering. The families start freaking out and screaming and yelling and cheering, hugging each other. It's so beautiful, man. When the music gets into that positive, breathtaking tone, it makes you want to get up and start cheering. Like, if it's just, it's the ultimate victory music that you could ever play. It's so good. So yeah, Apollo 13, one of the best film soundtracks I've ever heard, and James brought this film to life, and I will be forever in his debt for that. Now, the next film that I want to talk about, The Perfect Storm, which came out in 2000, and this one, funny enough, is also based off a true story. It's about the Andrea Gale that sank during the Perfect Storm back in 1991. The ship and her 7 crew members disappeared. It was a giant hurricane. It was like, you'll have to look this up for yourself, but a quick little summary. The Perfect Storm was this giant hurricane that hit in the fall of 91. And it was like these 3 storms merged together to form like this giant hurricane. And the Andrea Gale was on her way home from a fishing voyage, and the crew members fought the storm, I think, for several hours, but they ended up losing, and no one knows what happened to them. over 30 years later, the ship has never been found, and there were no survivors. All we know is whatever happened to the Andrea Gale was quick and instantaneous because her distress beacon was found, and her beacon was never activated. So the fact that the crew had no reaction time shows that I think most of the theories confirm that the ship was consumed by a massive rogue wave, because that's what happens to them in the film. They try to ride a rogue wave and the ship gets flipped upside down and sinks. It's kind of like what happened to the Edmund Fitzgerald, where it's like whatever happened to those ships was quick and instantaneous, where the crew had no reaction time. There was nothing they could have done. It was just a quick second and it was over. So the main tracks, the first one that I want to get into with this film is Coming Home from the Sea. Now I'm saying this right now, all these tracks have this feel of like love for your family, because the theme of this film, in my opinion, is the love you have for your family members and loved ones, and then you lose them and you wish you could have gotten to spend more time with them. The film really shows you how precious life is and how tomorrow isn't promised, for anyone. And James's music in this film really conveys that message. Coming Home from the Sea is the main theme throughout the entire film, and when you listen to this, it really gets you emotional, because for me, when this song plays, it really makes me think about all the fishermen who go out to sea to do this job, and it's not a safe business. This is a real risky job, and there's a good chance that you might not see them again. Like sailors and fishermen, who work out at sea as their day job. I have nothing but the highest respect for them. They're brave human men and women who go out and do that for a living. They're brave, extremely brave human beings. And Coming Home from the Sea really shows you how beautiful it is to go out at sea, and it's very adventurous. But the music, for me, helps remind me, it's a dangerous business. And and towards the end, it does this really emotional segment where it kind of makes you feel like, you're about to lose someone and there's nothing you can do about it, So the music in this film is very emotional, as it should. And the next track that really got me emotional is Small Victories. It's the background music that plays when the Andrea Gale is fighting the storm, and George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg's characters are up in the bridge trying to fight the storm. Clooney's character is steering, and then Mark Wahlberg's character is operating the switches to put the ship in certain speeds, because they're trying to fight, the waves so the ship doesn't get capsized, because these waves are like as tall as like 10-story buildings or something. And they're trying to fight, the waves and everything, and then they're trying to their goal is to turn the ship around. And Clooney comes up with this idea of like, okay, I want to turn the ship a certain way, and when I do that, I want you to flip that switch down to go full throttle. So the whole music's playing, because they only have one chance. If they screw this up, they're done for. There's no second chances on this. So this music's playing. The audience is wondering, is this going to work? And we get close-ups on the crew members in the bottom level of the ship, just scared out of their minds, not knowing if they're going to make it or not. And then the music kicks into high gear when Clooney's character yells, "Now!" They flip the switch. The ship is now at the highest speed it can go. Clooney turns the ship all the way to like the left, and they ride this one wave, and they manage to turn the ship back around, and the crew starts celebrating, and the music gets very positive and emotional, because for once they finally had a victory, and they think they're on a safe course home. But sadly, this was not a victory. In the film, what happens is they drive the ship to the eye of the storm, which is the most powerful point of the storm. That's the place you never want to go to. So this was not a victory. And, they literally just they're on the path, to their death now, and they don't know that, because their radio's out, so they can't talk to anybody. So they're all on their own, and they had to guess, and they guessed wrong. Now, we cut to the next instrumental track. Now, here's the one that I think this track is the most intense out of the Perfect Storm soundtrack, the Rogue Wave. So here's where the Andrea Gale sinks. Here's the most sad part of the film. The crew is fighting the storm, right? The waves are starting to calm down. And then out of nowhere, the sun pops out. The sky starts to clear. The crew thinks that they made it, that they're home free. And then the sun goes away. That opening closes. And then the storm is right back at full strength. Clooney's character goes, "She's not going to let us out." And then the waves get worse and worse and worse. Then out of nowhere, a giant rogue wave, probably about the size of the Empire State Building, is right in front of them. And then Walt Mark's character flips the ship into full throttle, and they try to ride up the wave, but they lose. The wave flips the ship over upside down and capsizes it. Then during the whole sequence, when the ship is riding the wave, they're trying to get to the top, to drive over it, but it was too big. Clooney's character's yelling, "Come on, you can do it," and the music is super intense during this sequence. Like, you just want to yell at them, "Come on, you can do it, you can do it," and then they lose. It's just the Rogue Wave, music is very intense, and talking about it doesn't do it any justice. But man, it enhanced that scene it goes from 1 to 100 like very, very fast. And here is my favorite track in the entire film. There's No Goodbye, Only Love. This is the music that plays where Mark Wahlberg's character manages to swim back up to the surface after the ship sinks. And he's floating in the water, and he's talking out to his girlfriend. He's telling her how much he loves her and everything. And every time he left, he always told her, "There is no goodbye, only love." And it's this music that starts playing as he says goodbye to her. Then the camera pans away as he floats away out at sea. And we don't know what happened to him, but it's safe to say that he drowned because there were no survivors. But when I hear this soundtrack, I picture in my head, this feels like music that you would play at a funeral for a loved one. Because when I listen to this, I imagine, I vision this music playing, and then it's just a series of Polaroid pictures slowly coming forward into frame, and we look at them for a good minute, then it cuts to the next one. It's like recounting this person's life from the highlights of he or she's life. When I listen to this track, that's what I think of. It's like a Polaroid picture presentation playing on a TV. And this music is very emotional too, because for me, it feels like you're saying goodbye to a loved one of yours, and all you can do is just remember the memories that you made with them. And it's very emotional. And that brings us to the last song that plays during the ending credits of The Perfect Storm, Yours Forever. Now, this song is really good, too. It uses the same, the same play pattern as Coming Home from the Sea, but it's changed up a little bit. It uses a lot of, violins and other instruments. And there's lead vocals on this one by John Mellencamp. Now, whether he wrote the lyrics for this or not, I don't know, but he sings the lyrics for this. And I'm telling you right now, man, this song is so good. I was listening to it a year or two ago, and I saw a comment on there. Someone said this would be the perfect wedding song to walk down the to walk down the aisle after you get married. Because lyrics go, here we are in the blaze of winter. Here we are, just me and you. Hold my hand. Let's face tomorrow. Tomorrow still holds its hand out to you. Like, the whole song is literally talking about, in my opinion, how you need to spend as much time with your loved ones as humanly possible, because you don't know what's going to happen to them. Like, you may say goodbye to them for the last time, and you don't know it. So it's very important that you say I love you to them every time you see them, because that might be the last chance you're ever going to get. Tomorrow isn't promised for anyone, man. And Yours Forever really says that, the whole song, for me, it feels like a tribute, to all the fishermen who have been lost out at sea through all the centuries. And it's just the perfect song to end the film out on. The film was dedicated to all the fishermen who have been lost out at sea, and this song was the perfect dedication for them. So, Perfect Storm, another amazing soundtrack that I highly recommend you listen to. I would recommend watching the film first. It's a great movie. And now that's going to bring us to Titanic, the third and last film that I wanted to talk about, which is mostly based off a true story about the Titanic sinking. Now, I did cover Titanic very recently. I recommend you go check out that podcast recording. Had a lot of fun with that one. And for anyone who's listened to that one, you know that I am the biggest Titanic fan of all time. I love Titanic. I've studied everything about her. I love the ship and its story. And I want it to be wrote on my tombstone that I'm a Titanic fan. I've been obsessed with the ship since I was a kid. I love the history and I love the story. And this movie, James Cameron did such an amazing job bringing this movie and this story to life. It's amazing. I recommend you check out the movie. And a big part why this film works so well is James Horner's music. It is so beautiful in this film. Like, I'm going to talk about it the best I can, but you have to watch the film and listen to this music for yourself to fully grasp how breathtaking it is. So the first track that I want to talk about here is called Leaving Port. This is the music that plays when Titanic leaves Southampton out to sea. Man, oh boy. The amount of emotions that this single song hits you with is unreal. First of all, it hits you with the scale of how big Titanic is and how amazing it is, seeing this huge man-made object leaving on her main voyage to change history. And you see her leaving, and everybody's out in the port waving goodbye to everybody. And the music is so hopeful and inspirational, like you're witnessing history unfold before your very eyes. And this music, Leaving Port, just really helps you understand how big Titanic was and what a groundbreaking achievement she was in ingenuity. It's so amazing. And the next track we got is Take Her Out to Sea, Mr. Murdoch. This is a scene that happens when Titanic makes her last stop and she's full steam ahead for New York City. Captain Smith orders Murdoch to stretch her legs. Take her out to sea, Mr. Murdoch. And then he orders the ship to go faster. So we get to see all these shots of like the engine and coal rooms. Like we see the coalmen showing more coal into the coal bunkers to make more steam to power the engines. And we get all these shots of the ship in and out, just showing you what a beautiful ship she was. Titanic was truly the ship of dreams. And this music really shows that. Just shows you the scale, man. Just, again, keyword, scale. And just how beautiful. The best part for me is when we see the engine room, where we see the guys turning the switches and the gears, and we see these engines that are like as tall as 10-story buildings. They're huge. And you see them operating. We see the propellers go faster. It shows you just what a big machine Titanic is. And this music, Take Her Out to Sea, it's so hopeful, inspirational, adventurous, excited. You feel all these emotions with this track. It is amazing. Keyword amazing. I'm going to be saying that a lot in this recording, heads up. I say amazing a lot. And that brings us to Hard to Starboard. Now, here is where things get really intense. This is the Master Alarm song for Titanic. This is the music that plays when the iceberg is spotted, and Murdoch had to make a quick call to make the ship, hard to starboard, which is code, to turn left very fast, So there's music playing. Everybody is scrambling. The coalmen are closing the bunkers, to cut off steam because they're trying to have the ship, stop and have it just, go left. So, everybody's scrambling, trying to save the ship. The guys in the engine room are freaking out. They're trying to quickly, power down everything and have the ship turn, left as fast as possible. And you as the audience member wondering, are they going to make it? Are they going to make it in time? The ship is slowly starting to turn left. Oh, come on. And then it sideswipes the iceberg. Man, this music just makes you want to start biting your fingernails because you're worried, you're stressed the heck out just as much as the crew members are because you're just wondering, you're just like, my gosh, are they gonna be able to get the engines off in time? Are they gonna be able to miss it? Is there anything else they can do? He's like you're helpless. You can't help them. All you can do is just sit there and watch this unfold. It's so stressful, and the music, oh man, it enhances that whole experience. And then we get to now here is a very emotional song. It's titled Unable to Stay and Unwilling to Leave. This is the music that's playing when Jack is trying to convince Rose to get in the lifeboat and leave, and she won't go. She gets in the lifeboat and she stares at Jack the whole time the boat's being lowered, and she decides, nope, I can't do it. I'm not leaving you behind to die. If you're going to die, I'm dying with you. So she jumps back onto the ship. He runs after her and they embrace at the grand staircase. They start kissing each other. Jack's, happy but mad at the same time. He's like, what are you doing? She's just like, Jack, I'm not going anywhere. I love you. If you're dying, I'm going with you. It's like anyone in that position, it's just like, I would have done the same thing. It's like, I'm not leaving my loved one behind. I'd rather die with my loved one. It's like, heck no, I'm not going to live without you. I love you. You think I'm going to leave you here to die alone? Heck no. We go together. And the music is so emotional, but it's like, you understand, Rose's position. This goes for male and female, you're not going to leave your loved one behind. I sure as heck wouldn't. And the music just really, it's emotional because you have all these people are trying to get into the lifeboats to leave, but they're not going to leave their loved ones behind, So it's like, are you going to live without them or are you going to stay and die together, And just the music really shows you, really makes you feel and grasps the situation. It's sad. It's a stressful, horrible situation to be in. And these people, have to come to terms like, no, I can't leave my loved ones behind to save myself. I can't do it. So yeah, that's one of my favorite tracks in the entire song, in the entire film. And here's I think this is probably the most famous song on the Titanic soundtrack, My Heart Will Go On. We all know this song. It's been played a million times. This is the song that plays during the ending credits. And it will make you cry, FYI. The lyrics just kind of goes into, I see you in my dreams and I know you will always be here with me. The whole song is just kind of going into, how you've lost a loved one, but they're with you and you're still here on the earth to keep their memory alive. It's very emotional, man. When you really understand the lyrics and the message it's telling you, you will be fighting back some tears. And the lead vocalist for that was Celine Dion, and man, there is something about her voice. When you listen to her sing the vocals for My Heart Will Go On, it's like you're gonna need a tissue box. There's something about her voice that will make you very emotional. It's just like, my gosh, man, that music just really makes you understand like how sad the whole Titanic event was. 1,502 people met a watery grave, just so many innocent lives were lost that night, just it's so heartbreaking. And My Heart Will Go On really hits you in the feels to remind you like how sad that whole event was. It grabs your heart out of your chest and shatters it like glass on pavement. It doesn't care about your feelings, that's for sure. And that brings us to the last track that I want to give a brief cover of, and this is Hymn to the Sea. And this is, I think, the main theme for the Titanic film. It's the famous song, with the famous, flute and other instruments. And this song, I feel like, is the theme for Jack and Rose, because they're the main characters of this film. They didn't exist in real life, but the reason they were created, like, Cameron wanted you to feel, what it felt, like, Jack was supposed to symbolize, all the people that died that night, and then Kate was supposed, and then Rose was supposed to represent the survivors of that night, So they were meant to embody, both sides of what happened, from the survivor point of view, from the people who died point of view. And this last track, I think, really conveys, like, I don't know, like, this one I have a hard time understanding the message, like, for me, when I listen to this, it has that, like, life goes on, because I think a lot of the Titanic survivors dealt with, survivor guilt, like, why did I make it when all those other people died? I think a lot of them, suffered from that for a good portion of their lives. That's because an event like that is something you don't just forget about. It'll haunt you for the rest of your life, And when I listen to this song, it just like, it makes me kind of like hopeful, kinda, but sad at the same time. But for me, the message it conveys, no matter how sad things get, life has to go on. Like, you have to continue living your life, and don't let that sad event, consume you. And that's what Rose did. She kept her promise to Jack, and she lived a full life. She got married, had kids, she got grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and I like that last shot we see at the end of the film where old lady Rose is laying in bed, and the camera pans, and we see all these pictures of her throughout her life, all the adventures she went on, and everything she experienced. And this track is playing in the background, and it makes you very emotional, but also very happy that, she got to live, her full life, and she's happy, like, she has no regrets. She lived a perfect life. So that's what I mean by, this track really makes me hopeful at the same time. It's also really sad, but it's happy and sad at the same time. But overall, all the tracks of Titanic, a whole set of emotions. And that's going to be the end talking about the Titanic film. But those are the three films: Apollo 13, The Perfect Storm, and Titanic. Those are my top three favorite films with the music that James Horner composed. These films would not be the same without his music. And I just want to give my utmost respect to this man. He's been gone now for 8 years, and the world misses him dearly, and my condolences go out to his family. He made some of the most beautiful music I've ever seen be put to film, and he brought so many films to life with his beautiful music. So rest in peace to James Horner, and wherever you are, I hope you're very happy, and I hope you're at peace. So, and this whole recording is dedicated to you, my friend. Thank you for the amazing music that you've left behind for us to listen to for the rest of time. And that is going to wrap it up for the end of this recording. I hope you enjoyed what I had to talk about, because I wanted to change it up. Part of me was thinking about, I almost decided to do a review of the Doors band debut album, but I decided to save that possibly for another time. Don't know 100% if I want to go through with that topic or not, but I wanted to do something different. I talk about film a lot, so I thought, why not dedicate a recording talking about one of my favorite composers of all time? So that's where that came from. So I hope you enjoy this recording. It's something very different, but I'm very happy with how this turned out. And if you have not seen any of the films that I talked about today, I highly recommend you check them out. But I hope that you enjoyed this recording, and until next time, my name is DJ Apollo, and you are listening to the Tales of Music and Film.